The theory of embodiment states that when we take on shapes consciously with intention, which is what EYP is, we're actually working on our way of being. So let's take warrior posture, for example, right? So you're learning to inhabit that way of being in its most extreme form. So now in life, we don't suddenly go, wah, that would be weird, okay? But we might straighten up a little bit. We might look a bit more directly. That warrior quality is useful for life. So even doing it for a short period of time, you're giving yourself the message, it's okay. Yeah, you're giving yourself the message, you can survive this. It's allowable, and getting more used to it. It's like you're marinating in a very strong sauce, even if it's only for a short period of time.
For me, taking space was really helpful in certain situations, because I tend to drift into the background if I feel a little insecure with things or standing in front of a group. And then practicing that before entering into a group or leading something is really helpful in just being there.
For me, the authority one has been really helpful, actually, to assume an inner authority over my own habitual inner monologue and take charge inside of myself. So how that also helped me in my life was that I stopped forcing my authority on other people because I had it inside of myself.
All right, everyone, you have 5 minutes left.
A really useful posture has been entering in pose. So the idea of moving forwards, entering into new or different situations. And for me, it has really helped me to make initial contact with people, to approach people for friendship, conversation, or just general contact in a way that I wasn't that confident about doing it before. I'm autistic, I'm on the autism spectrum, and so making contact with people can be a bit difficult, and that I'm not quite sure when it's appropriate or not. So the entering pose has been really, really useful in allowing me to do that.
So what it looks like is they practice the postures, and that if they already have a yoga practice, like say a morning practice, like a lot of yogis do, that's very easy, they just incorporate them. And I might give clients, for example, say 5 postures to do for 1 minute each. So what another thing that's really good about it for modern busy people is it's super efficient. It's kind of a word that we might associate with business, but actually it's really, people just don't have much time if they're parents, they're working hard, whatever. So they might do, say, 5 practices for 1 minute each in the morning. Or they might, start doing a different style of yoga. So the joke I make is I went to a well-known yoga studio in London, Troy Yoga, a really good studio, and I went to the Ashtanga class and I went to the Yin class. These are like 2 opposite ends of a spectrum, kind of. And what was interesting to me is all the Yang people were in the Yang class before the class, and all the Yin people were in the Yin class. I walked into the Yin class, all these soft, open, relaxed people. And I thought, wow, you guys should really swap classes. Because at the moment, all you're doing is deepening your neurosis. You're deepening, or getting better at the thing you're better at, but also worse at the thing you're worse at. So it could be about redesigning your practice. It could be about choosing different classes or different styles. Like as someone who's quite wild and out of control, for me to do a bit of like formal Iyengar type yoga, quite helpful. If you're like a control freak and you're a bit neurotic and you're already too much like that, that would not be helpful. You might want to do a more flowing, creative class. So picking classes and also some of the actual EYP postures are 2 of the main methods people use. I use what people know because it's familiar, and you can do an EYP class just using traditional Hatha yoga. You can absolutely do that, and there are teachers who do. And we've found that for certain archetypes, energies, ways of being, some other postures are helpful. So for example, let's say generosity posture. This is universal gesture. It's, everyone in the world would say this is more generous than this. Or this is more like no, this is more like yes. Now, those aren't in the classical yoga repertoire quite as we do them. Our no posture, for example, comes from karate. We have a posture from tango. We have postures from something called Izazu, who's been a big influence. Various systems. I've looked at what's most archetypal. And some of them, like Warrior 2, classical. I was looking at a statue in Moscow just yesterday, and it was one of our postures, and I saw another statue, and it was another one of our postures, because these are like, I know, I hadn't seen those statues before, but artists are also very good at capturing the psychological, emotional, and the archetypal. So is it yoga? Some people would say no, and I think that's okay. You could call it something else, but if yoga with dogs is yoga, doga, and voga is yoga, I think in many ways what I'm doing is more like traditional yoga, even though some of the techniques might be different, in that the intention is really to be mindful, to look at ourselves as people, to develop ourselves. I think if the average kind of Indian cave-dwelling mystic from a few hundred years ago were to walk into any yoga studio in the world, they would not call it yoga. So there's this huge debate, what is yoga? And I'd say if it's about awareness and kindness, it's yoga. If it's a physical practice of working with the body to develop ourselves as people, it's yoga. Other people may say, no, yoga has to come from a very strict Indian lineage tradition, and that's okay. They define it differently. So you can call it yoga, you can call it an embodied practice that looks like yoga, whatever, I don't mind. So I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, you can subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. More importantly, however, get the newsletter. So the newsletter you do, is that right? In the box here? Okay. So why you would want the newsletter? So you hear about the best videos, so you actually ask me questions, you can reply to the newsletter, I'll reply. You can hear about events, teacher trainings, other things that are happening, and stay in touch more reliably. So newsletter there.